everybody, welcome back to the Vegas Nation Raiders Offseason Edition. It's your podcast host here, Heidi Fang, and I'm joined with Sam Gordon, one of our Raiders writers. We're going to break things down for you here. We're going to continue this throughout the season. Every Monday, you'll find new episodes right here on vegasnation.com or by downloading the Vegas Nation app. So we're going to break down today the secondary. This was a really sore spot for the Raiders in 2020, and I know it's going to be an area that they look to focus on. Whether they stick with in-house talent or go out and find somebody in free agency, Sam, the Raiders definitely need to step up what happened in 2020. What are some of the numbers that you have for us here on some of the abysmal effort of last year's secondary?
Yeah, Heidi, it was really a young group with Jonathan Abram, Damion Arnett, and Trayvon Mullen, right? Either first or second year guys that were asked to fill big roles, and at times they played like it, right? Jonathan Abram, for example, in his first full season, I mean, you look at the positives. He's physical. He plays with a kind of a unique energy. There's a certain je ne sais quoi he has that can positively affect the team. And he led the team with 86 tackles, but he struggled in coverage, right? Allowing a pass rating of 109.2, and he missed 13 tackles, which were tied for second on the team. And that's despite missing a few games. So still room for development there. Damion Arnett, the same thing, right? He missed 7 games. But when he played, opposing quarterbacks completed 78.1% of their passes against him for a passer rating of 106.9, which if any quarterback has that passer rating, they're pretty good. So his missed tackle percentage of 34.2 also led the team. And John Gruden said, after the season, his media availability, that he's a guy that needs to get stronger. Had a couple hand injuries, one at Ohio State and one this year with the Raiders that limited some time. And, you can't work out the same way. So the physicality of the NFL, I think, was really an adjustment for him. Trayvon Mullen, I think, was a bright spot in his second year after being a second-round pick in 2019. He was targeted a team-high 86 times, but his completion percentage allowed was only 61.6, which is pretty good, and the pass rating of 92.4. He's still only 23, and I think he projects long-term right now, based on what we've seen, as the best defensive back on the roster. And then you have a couple veterans, right, like Eric Harris, LaMarcus Joyner. What are they going to do with those guys? In Joyner's case, still an effective player, but they can save $8.7 million in salary cap space if they cut him before June 1st. He's 30 years old, and Harris is too, and he struggled this year, allowing 13 missing 13 tackles and allowing a pass rating of 124.1. So they're going to have to develop some of those young guys, and you have guys like Keyshawn Nixon and Isaiah Johnson as well, who have potential as prospects long term. But I think they're also going to look to make some moves, and like you said, Heidi, bring in some free agents, or maybe try and draft a couple defensive backs to push the guys on the roster.
Well, right now, if you think about it, there's big names out there. Logan Ryan's one. Patrick Peterson comes to mind. We talked last week about Richard Sherman being somebody that could become available in the free agency. With what the Raiders have to do with their money in the offseason and how they try to figure out this puzzle, Sam, is there any of those big names that you think that they could target?
Yeah, I think if they target a big name, it would probably be more likely at safety, just because of what you have invested in those young corners. I think Justin Simmons, he's a guy who's a free agent, one of the best safeties in football. He's probably going to command a big salary because of how well he's played the last couple of years, but he's a guy that maybe if the Raiders want to commit to that position, they can go ahead and get him. Anthony Harris, another guy that seems like a logical fit. He was graded in the top 40% of safeties by Pro Football Focus, longtime Minnesota Viking, who is likely going to hit the market and see what he can get as a free agent. And then John Johnson is a guy that our colleague Vinny Bonsignore raves about with the Rams. He was graded out as Pro Football Focus's third best safety this year. He's 25 years old. He's entering his prime. He's one of the top coverage safeties in the league. And that safety spot is where they need some help at coverage. That's, again, not Jonathan Abram's strong suit, and Eric Harris struggled there, although Jeff Heath was really, really good. A young safety that can cover and can make plays on the back end could definitely be an asset moving forward for the Raiders.
We talked about Gus Bradley last week, but I want to just get your take on how Gus Bradley would go about starting to look at things with Jonathan Abram. What would you think the first thing fundamentally that he might look at with Jonathan Abram's game and start working with him on?
We know Abram has a lot of potential. He's a heavy hitter. He can make plays. He can bring down running backs in the backfield. He has that speed to come off the edge and blitz when they ask him to. Like, he has physical talent, and he has some intangibles. I think for Jonathan Abram, it's just kind of the nuances of the position, understanding when to remain in coverage, when to abandon coverage and come forward and pursue, how to take better angles in pursuit and as a tackler, the things of that nature. And I think Gus Bradley, what he's really going to do is simplify things with his cover 3 scheme. No team in the NFL played more cover 3 than the Chargers last year. And I think that kind of simplifies the responsibilities for a lot of these guys, as where Paul Gunther was playing this kind of hybrid cover 6, combining cover 2 schemes and cover 4 schemes and mixing them together. And depending on which side of the field, guys have different responsibilities. So it's really about for Bradley, really identifying what a player like Abram, what his strengths are, and then putting him in a position to allow him to focus on what he's good at while continuing to develop his weaknesses. And there's still, I mean, he's only 24 years old, and this was basically his first full year. There's still a lot of upside there, even though he struggled in the 2020 season.
So, Sam, any final thoughts for you on somebody that really could take a huge leap in 2021 for the Raiders? What player are you going to put that on?
I think a guy to look to is Damion Arnett, right? If he has a full healthy offseason, if he addresses some of those concerns that Gruden had about his strength, his upper body strength, and gets to be a little bit more physical, I think he's poised to take a big leap. Now, there are some coverage things that need to improve, but if he's able to be able to practice, to have a full offseason to practice, a full offseason to lift weights, to develop, to get accustomed to the physicality of the NFL, I think he's a guy that could be in line to take a leap. We know Gus Bradley has a track record for player development. We saw that, especially in Seattle. We saw that in Jacksonville, too, when he was a head coach. Even though he didn't have success as a head coach, he developed a lot of those players on that defense that went on to advance to the AFC Championship game in 2017. And then he did the same thing with the Chargers. Arnett's the guy that comes to mind, but I think I wouldn't be surprised if we saw, Abram take another leap or even Trayvon Mullen, as well as he played at times last year. There's still room for growth with him as well. I think that's one of the reasons Bradley got the job. He can develop talent, he can identify it, and the Raiders certainly have some for him to work with.
Well, we shall see what happens as the offseason is upon us. It's approaching. What the Raiders may do, combine things. We're going to figure that out when we have an update too on the combine and how that's all going to play out. We'll tell it to you here on this Vegas Nation offseason review. So keep tuned to everything that we're doing on vegasnation.com as well as in print and by downloading the Vegas Nation app. For Sam Gordon, I'm Heidi Fang. Thanks for watching.